I'm going to show you today 2 quick methods of skin softening. Now, a lot of people use Portraiture, which is a plugin for Photoshop, which I also use, which is great as a quick way of doing things. But this is also a really good way of getting in and fixing up skin. Now, when we sort of are back here, you can see this looks fabulous. Great makeup job on this one. But she's a beautiful girl to start with. But there's a lot of little bits and pieces that makeup will never cover up. Often the best thing to do is use our healing brush and just coming in on some of these little bits and pieces just to clean those up first, so that we start off with a very nice clean image. Now remember, depending on the size of the image will also depend on how much of this you will actually see. So if this is only going to be printed as, say, a 7x5 inch print, then going into this much detail is probably not necessary. But if this is going up onto a billboard or as a 16x20 in somebody's home, then it's probably a good idea to get in here and make sure that it's really, really beautifully cleaned up. Once we've got the skin reasonably clean, there's 2 different ways that we can work on the skin here. The first one is we can use the surface blur. So if we go up to our filters, and if we go down here to our blur, and then down to surface blur, we can see in the window here how much blur we're actually getting. So at 42 pixels is way too much. Drop it back a bit. And what we want to be able to see is the skin texture, but softening the edges of it. One of the things I like about surface blur is it does tend to keep the edges a little bit sharper. We'll drop our threshold down as well. I'll bring this up a little bit more into the radius. And once we're happy with that, we can click on OK. Now that actually softens the entire image, and we don't necessarily want everything soft. So we can then use a mask with a black brush. And what we want to do is just make sure the opacity is all the way up, bring the details back of the eye. Helps if you put it in black, like so. Make sure all those details are in there still. So when we turn that on and off, we can see that the skin is just that little bit softer, and our eye is taken into her eyes and mouth. So that's way number 1. Let's just call this over here. I'll just rename this to surface blur so we can compare the 2. I'm again just going to make a copy of this one, and I'm going to turn our surface blur off and just put that down the bottom here so that we can play and have a look at that in a minute. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go up to filter, up to other, and up to high pass. Now 43 pixels in the high pass is pretty much exactly what I use every single time. I'm going to click on OK, and then I want to invert this particular layer. So I want to make sure I'm on that particular layer and then go Control I, and that inverts the layer for me. I'm now going to come to my layer modes and come down here to soft light. Now if I turn that on and off, you'll see that it softens it a massive amount. In fact, so much so that it kind of has that 1980s glamour soft filter look about it that we used to use back in the day. We don't want that on everything. So what we want to do here is use our opacity to drop this back until we're happy where the skin is. And then we can use again a mask to bring back the areas that we want. Now if you were doing fashion work and you were going to be spending a lot more time on doing perfect edits, then these are probably not the best ways of working for skin softening. However, if you're doing portraits for seniors or on babies, that type of thing, these are 2 very quick, easy skin softening techniques that you can use. Now I'm just going to turn that one on and off, and I'm going to come in nice and close on this eye so you can actually see the difference there. So on and off, and it just softens the skin the very smallest amount. It's not very strong, this one, compared to Surface Blur, which is much stronger. So that's Surface Blur, and that is the high pass filter. So that now gives you two ways of softening skin. Like I said at the beginning though, it's really important to go in and just make sure that any of these little wrinkles or bits and pieces are gone, or if they've got any pimples or whatever, do that before you start doing the skin softening. Hope you enjoyed this little tutorial and have fun softening some skin. See you next time.